In the rustic countryside of northern Italy, in a region that had long nurtured violent revolution, Benito Mussolini was born on July 29, 1883, in the little town of Pradapio. The Mussolinis were slightly better off than their neighbors because Benito's mother Rosa was the town's schoolmistress, and they could live in the building that housed the school. Benito's father Alessandro tended to be careless with money. His passion was politics. He was a dedicated socialist who took his son to party meetings. He'd even named him Benito, after the Mexican revolutionary Benito Juarez. Though he'd become one of history's most forceful speakers, Benito was slow in learning to talk, and his parents feared he might be mute. But under his mother's patient attention, he not only learned to speak, he soon showed himself to be a very bright child. Although Benito adored his father, his feelings were not returned. It was perhaps out of that pain that Benito became a bully, who delighted in pinching people at church and throwing stones at them outside. Finally, in 1892, when he was 8, his parents packed him off to Catholic boarding school.
He was a clever person, but I don't think he stood out as a very amiable character. He was one of those sort of children who gets expelled from schools for being violent. One does see someone who thought he'd get his way by using violence. And that, of course, is the origins of fascism in Italy.
Mussolini's father taught him socialist values and encouraged his son to defy authority. Benito was just 10 when he headed his first rebellion over the food at his boarding school. The young Mussolini's behavior grew ever more outrageous. In 1894, the 11-year-old Benito stabbed a fellow student with a pocket knife. Fed up, the schoolmasters expelled him. His parents found another nearby school for him, and in spite of several more suspensions and his mediocre record as a student, he received his teaching certificate in 1901. By the time he was 17, Mussolini became fascinated with the opposite sex, and he began to sneak off to the local brothels. Benito also had several girlfriends, and though he treated them roughly, they found him attractive nonetheless.
He looked on women not as companions at all, but I think as people who could really contribute to his sense of dignity and power and manhood.
In July 1902, Benito crossed the border into Switzerland to escape military service, an offense for which he would later have people shot when he became dictator. He found work as a laborer in Lausanne and became active in the labor union. The union leaders were mostly socialists, and Mussolini soon became one of its more vocal members.
When he saw he could browbeat the other socialists, this gave him a sense of authority, which was something he was obviously looking for. He had this reputation for being a braggart, a bully. A lot of these things came from a lack of worth in himself.
Benito's radical views put him at the far left of the party, and among the few advocating all-out revolution, he railed against the church, the king, the government, everything his socialist father had taught him to despise. The Swiss authorities arrested him again and again for political agitation.
He was against war, he was against conscription for the army, he was in favour of nationalising property. He was against censorship, just to mention that. Later on, this was the one thing which really was most important for him.